Welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. You're walking into a room, getting ready to deliver a high stakes startup pitch to a table full of investors. You might think the absolute most important thing you're bringing into that room is your raw academic intellect, your IQ. But today, we're going to completely break down that myth. We're diving into why the smartest person in the room isn't always the most effective and what investors and really any leaders are actually looking for when they evaluate a winning team.
So let's jump over to a fascinating mystery at Bell Labs, the world-renowned scientific think tank. We're talking about a building packed with literal geniuses. The engineers and scientists working there are just entirely off the charts when it comes to standard academic IQ tests. They all share identical, absolutely top-tier innate cognitive abilities. And yet, within this massive pool of pure brilliance, only a tiny, tiny fraction actually emerge as true star innovators. I mean, if everyone's a genius, who becomes the star performer? What actually makes the difference?
Well, here is the absolute shocker. Standard tests for IQ and academic talent were actually terrible predictors of on-the-job productivity among these folks. When researchers Robert Kelly and Janet Kaplan dug into this, they compared the star performers with everyone else, and they found almost no meaningful difference in their cognitive measures or personality inventories. Innate intellectual ability literally did not separate the average worker from the superstar. It didn't move the needle even a little bit. Psychologist Daniel Goleman actually cracked the code on this one. The real differentiator, it's emotional intelligence, or EQ. What really separated the stars at Bell Labs was their internal and interpersonal strategies. Their EQ is what allowed them to motivate themselves, take initiative way beyond their basic job descriptions, and most importantly, truly master their interpersonal networks. Honestly, if you're pitching a startup, this is exactly what investors are trying to sniff out. They're thinking, does this founder have the emotional regulation to actually lead a team through the trenches? To put some numbers to this, think about Martin Seligman's famous MetLife study. Selling insurance involves constant, grueling rejection, right? Kind of like pitching a new business. Well, Seligman found that new salesmen who were, by nature, optimists sold 37% more insurance in their first 2 years than the pessimists did. That's a massive difference. And the retention rate? The pessimists quit at twice the rate of the optimists in their first year alone. So emotional resilience literally drives revenue and retention. And this brings us to a huge shift in how we work today. As management expert Peter Drucker pointed out, we're now in an economy completely dominated by knowledge workers. Because expertise is so highly specialized now, the team, not the isolated individual, has become the fundamental work unit. Nobody, and I mean nobody, knows enough to build a complex software system or scale a massive startup completely by themselves. So this reality gives rise to the concept of group IQ. Basically, when people collaborate, their group IQ is the sum total of their combined talents. But Yale psychologists Robert Sternberg and Wendy Williams made this really counterintuitive discovery. They found that a group can actually be much dumber than the sum of its parts if its internal workings are messed up. It turns out social harmony is the single most important factor in maximizing a team's talent. Harmony is literally the glue that allows a group to actually utilize the genius of its individual members. Surprisingly enough, their research showed that just having highly talented members isn't enough if there's constant social friction. We've all met them, right? Those domineering, eager beavers who actually drag down the whole team's performance because they just can't navigate the basic give and take of collaboration. They completely lack basic social intelligence. For an investor looking at a founding team, one controlling genius can be a massive flashing red flag. Which brings up a really critical question. If harmony is so important, what is the absolute fastest way to destroy a team's motivation and shatter that delicate group IQ? Consider this story from Goleman's research. A seasoned software engineer and his team worked grueling hours for months. They were incredibly proud to present their project to the company's vice president. But right after the presentation, the VP just sarcastically asked, "How long have you been out of graduate school? These specifications are ridiculous." That single, throwaway insult utterly deflated the engineer. It destroyed the team's morale overnight and left this toxic residue of bitterness that nearly caused the engineer to quit altogether. It really highlights the stark contrast in how we handle workplace friction. On one hand, you have destructive criticism. It feels like a personal attack, it's harsh, and it offers exactly zero solutions. It instantly triggers defensive, emotional stonewalling. The alternative is what we call the artful critique. It addresses the exact same core issues, but it actually empowers the person by being considerate, highly specific, and offering a collaborative path forward. So if you want to give feedback that actually works, whether you're a manager, a co-founder, or an investor, you really need to follow the anatomy of an artful critique. It breaks down into 4 essential steps. First, be incredibly specific about the problem. Don't be vague. Second, offer a concrete solution or at least a path to find one. Third, be present. Deliver it face-to-face, not in some passive-aggressive Slack message. And fourth, be sensitive. Practice genuine empathy and understand the emotional impact your words are going to have. Going back to our stars at Bell Labs, they perfectly demonstrate the power of handling these relationships well. Because they don't alienate their peers with harsh criticism or domineering behavior, they use their interpersonal skills to fluidly assemble informal ad hoc teams. When an unexpected technical problem threatens a massive product launch, they can instantly assemble the perfect informal squad to just handle it. Now, these informal networks basically operate on 3 distinct levels: communications, so who talks to whom; expertise, who gets asked for advice; and trust, who is confided in with secrets and doubts. A micromanager might look great on the expertise network because they know all the technical details, but they have absolutely zero presence on the trust network. The true stars, the ones who actually get things done efficiently, are deeply connected across all 3 webs. People actively trust them with their vulnerabilities. The absolute key takeaway here is how these star performers operate on a timeline. They don't wait for a crisis, just like you wouldn't wait until your startup is completely out of cash to start meeting investors, right? Star performers proactively invest time into building these reliable networks long before they actually need them. When an average engineer hits a roadblock, their emails go unanswered. When a star performer hits a roadblock, their calls are answered immediately because the relationship is already there. Looking at these master networkers and empathetic leaders, it's pretty natural to wonder, do you have to be born with this high EQ? Are we just talking about fixed genetic traits here, or are these skills that you can actually develop over time? Honestly, it's a huge relief to know the answer. The incredible news from neuroscience is that temperament is not destiny. Sure, our genetic heritage might give us certain emotional set points, but our brain circuitry is extraordinarily malleable. Emotional intelligence is a highly teachable skill set. So whether you're trying to level up your leadership skills or just trying to keep a cool head during a highly stressful seed round negotiation, you can absolutely rewire how you respond to stress and conflict. For instance, pioneering educational programs are actively teaching kids something called the SOX method. That's situation, options, consequence, solutions. It's a remarkably simple but powerful framework. It forces you to pause, state the situation and your feelings, brainstorm your options, and weigh the consequences before you execute a solution. It entirely prevents that emotional hijacking of the brain, empowering both kids and adults to control their impulses during really complex social conflicts. You know, Aristotle actually pinned this down centuries ago. He said, anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, this is not easy. True intelligence isn't just about passing a math test or writing a flawless line of code. It's the difficult daily practice of mastering our own emotional responses. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder as you navigate your own workplace or prepare for that next big startup pitch. Investors aren't just betting on your product, they are betting on your emotional resilience. Are you relying solely on your cognitive smarts, or are you putting in the work every single day to cultivate your emotional toolkit and become a true star? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.